Good afternoon. This is Mr. G, and of course, we are beginning our African American poet project. And of course, as we discussed before we took the pre-assessment, is that we need to review or possibly learn some new poetic devices, poetic terms, so we can effectively analyze, discuss, and write about these poets, or really any poets for that matter. So we will begin by going through these guided notes and going over these poetic devices. With the guided notes, how they work. Okay, we'll have the definition of the word here, and then as you'll see, there are some blank spaces here and here. Sometimes there's one, sometimes there's two. I will provide verbally the words that should go in here. And then as you'll see, I'll be clicking back and forth between this Google Doc and a Google Slides presentation that I created. The Google Slides presentation will give you those words that should go in the blank. You'll also find that those are usually two crucial words to the definition. So many times if you just pull that missing word or the missing words from it, it will definitely clarify and simplify the definition for you. And speaking of clarifying and simplifying, that's what you're going to do down here in your own words. Instead of having this whole definition, if you can simplify it or rephrase it in a way that will help you better remember it and apply it, that's where you should do it. You can just use those two words or maybe the language I use, but there's where you want to write it in words that you know you can use and remember. Then lastly, you will supply an example. I provide examples on the PowerPoint, or the Google Slides rather. Some of them are rather simple and direct, while others have been culled from actual poems, literary examples. Many of those will be from poets or poems that we will read as part of this unit. So those examples kind of also work as an intro into the content into which we'll be delving more deeply. So with no further ado, let's go ahead and begin. The first word is alliteration. This one many were familiar based on the pretest, and the definition is the repetition of consonant sounds at the beginning of words placed near each other. Okay, and the example I provide here is ba ba black sheep. As you can see, the repeat of that consonant sound ba 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 black sheep. Peter picked a peck of pickled peppers. Okay, there we were repeating that consonant sound at the beginning. That provides a certain rhythm and sound that poets like to incorporate. Number two is allusion. Okay, allusion is a brief reference to some person, historical event, work of art, or biblical or mythological situation or character. And I know I kind of flew by that first section, but I might pause after I provide the example, and then you can go ahead and fill in your own words in your example, which makes one advantage of having this on video. I also may not always enlarge this to the full presentation size, but I think you should still be able to make out the words on here. For some of them, we'll have to because there are hyperlinks I want to go to, but these are pretty simple. So allusion, as I said, is a reference to something biblical, mythical, historical, literary. It could be a movie, it could be a person, but it should be something that we all know. Okay, so if I say he's the Michael Jordan of my sixth period class, you automatically know, oh, he's the star of the class because Michael Jordan was the best ever when it comes to basketball. Okay, so again, that's also kind of an analogy or a metaphor, but it's an allusion because it's to a specific person, and I'm just kind of assuming everybody would know what that reference means. Number three, analogy. A comparison, usually something unfamiliar with something familiar. The main thing you need to know here is that it's a comparison. Our example here. Sword is to a warrior as pen is to a writer. So now you may see some similarities here to metaphors or similes here with the analogy, but analogy usually is a logical construct. It kind of makes sense. It's kind of a syllogism in some cases, that it's a completed pattern or logical statement, which makes it a little different. You also see them very commonly on standardized tests, the ACT, as in it might say banana is to yellow as apple is to, and obviously you all said red right away. Again, that kind of logical relationship. Number 4 is cliche. A figure of speech that was once clever and original, but through overuse has become outdated. Okay, just outdated or tired or boring or bland or just kind of sick of it. I will expand this one and kind of get a little idea here with this little image here. Some very oops, I forgot to type outdated up here too. Make sure you add outdated. So it was clever, but it's become outdated. So every cloud has a silver lining. That's a cliche. Driving me crazy. When pigs fly, light as a feather, hard as a rock, easy as pie, take a chill pill, cold as ice, a diamond in the rough, don't judge a book by its cover. Even though some of these statements may be true, we've heard them a lot, too much, and so poets generally tend to avoid incorporating them in their work. If you do see cliches in their work, it may be something you criticize them for. Number 5 is connotation. The emotional, psychological, or social overtones of a word, its implications and associations apart from its literal meaning. Okay, so again, what all of that means, again, overtones and associations. So these words will give you an example. So baby. Now baby's literal meaning might be an infant, right? A young infant. But if I'm talking about my significant other and I go, oh, here's my baby, or there goes my baby, that obviously has a much different meaning or association. I'm not saying there goes my infant, I'm saying there goes the person I'm dating. Same with tight. Tight in a literal sense might be talking about a screw, something that's strong, sturdy, where if someone walks up with a appealing outfit and you go, oh, that outfit's tight, or you hear a song like, oh, the song is tight, that obviously has a very different association and meaning. Same with special. Special can have a positive connotation, as you often see connotations can be negative or positive, as in, oh, it's such a special day, this is graduation day, or, oh, that kid's kind of special, meaning, he's missing a screw, he's not up to speed, he's, not as intelligent as everybody else. So again, we have that kind of different association. Okay, so that's connotation. It's all the meanings with the word besides what it just means if we look it up in the dictionary. Now, if we're just talking about what it says in the dictionary, then we are not talking about connotation, but its kind of counterpart, denotation, which is the dictionary definition of a word, its literal meaning apart from any associations or connotations. And this next slide will offer a graphic to kind of compare and contrast connotation and denotation. Okay, so again, denotation is a strict definition, whereas connotation refers to the personal and cultural meanings in addition to the primary literal meaning of the word. Connotation can be classified as positive and connotation as negative connotation. Okay, so oh, that word has a negative connotation. So we talked about special, has a negative connotation in that context. Connotation can change according to culture and the context associated with it, okay? Personal experiences. Where denotation, boom, is just what it says in the dictionary. The next word, this one according to the pre-test, a lot of people aren't quite familiar with, so we'll talk about it now, and that is diction. Earlier in the year when we read The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde, we were doing some literary analysis. I kind of have a literary analysis guide. I had diction on there, but before I gave it to you, I actually edited that, modified it, and changed diction to word choice, which is essentially what it is, the choice and use of words. Okay, so when we're talking about diction, we're talking about, especially with poetry, why the poet or the writer chooses the words that they do. So, again, diction is word choice. Connotations and denotations, often that will come into play, why they choose a certain word. Especially when we're talking about poetry, the sound, the appearance, the rhyme, the rhythm, you may choose a different word over another. Also, your audience or the situation may impact the word choice. If it's informal in your personal writing, you might say, oh, I caught a bug. Where if you're writing in a more formal academic setting, you would call it a germ. Same with these other words, folks or relatives, job or position, kid, child, boss, superior, to get across, communicate. Okay? So again, there's many different factors that affect diction. Could be the audience, the setting, you need a rhyme, you want to use alliteration, or the word maybe just has a negative or a positive connotation you want to avoid. The next word is enjambment. Okay, enjambment. Ugh, easy for me to say, right? But it's the continuation of the logical sense and therefore the grammatical construction beyond the end of a line of poetry. Okay, so basically it's where the poet chooses to break the line off. This can have different effects for many different reasons. Usually the sound, the rhythm of the poetry, sometimes it changes the meaning and adds an extra level of meaning. The first poem we're going to read is the one on the right. Actually, the other one is a link to a recording to the Poem Hunter website, which may be valuable in this project. So I also wanted to preview that. The recording, if it works, sometimes it works, sometimes it does not. If it does not work, I'm just going to read it when we get there. It's just a robot voice, so it doesn't give us a very rhythmic representation of enjambment. But you still see Richard Brautigan's poem and how it's read, where he breaks it off, kind of creates extra levels of meaning. With this poem on the right here, We Real Cool, you will see that where Gwendolyn Brooks, the author of this poem, who is an African-American poet, who you'll see in this project, you're going to choose one to kind of focus on several poems, write about, and do a little biographical research on. Some of you, well, one of you, because I'm trying to get everyone to do a different poet, may choose her. But this is a poem where we see enjambment really has a significant impact on the poem. So let me read it, and then we'll kind of discuss that a little bit. It's called We Real Cool. The pool players, 7 at the Golden Shovel. We real cool. We left school. We lurk late. We strike straight. We sing sin. We thin gin. We jazz June. We die soon. Now see there the we, where she breaks the line after the we, instead of starting each line with we, kind of gives it a very interesting, unique rhythm. Some people say it almost suggests the sound of a saxophone. It also, to me, almost sounds like someone getting out of breath or wheezing, struggling through this, and it gives it a very interesting rhythm. Whatever, regardless of the meaning you get from the poem, the we and the enjambment, where she chooses to break the line and start the line, gives it a certain rhythm and makes it very unique. Now, the Richard Brautigan poem, he's not an African-American poet, but he was a very successful poet in the 1960s, uses enjambment, and we'll see if this plays with Okay, I saved you from an advertisement there. Now this, we don't get a great sense of rhythm because it's a computer voice, but you do get a sense if you read the poem as you see it here on the screen. At least you get an idea how the enjambment kind of changes the meaning of this poem.
To wake up in the morning, all alone, and not have to tell somebody you love them when you don't love them anymore.
Yes, that little robotic voice does not give you a good sense. I'm going to read it again just to kind of give you a sense of the enjambment and maybe the meaning it creates. Love poem. It's so nice to wake up in the morning, all alone, not have to tell somebody you love them when you don't love them anymore. So, through the use of enjambment here, we kind of get an idea of, even though this is called a love poem, it's really about someone who's not in love anymore. And we kind of get the different meanings. We kind of pauses a little bit till we read the following line. We are going to stop there for today with enjambment. We will continue on the next time you log in to Google Classroom. So make sure you go back, simplify these, put them in your own words, provide an example. You can use my example or create one of your own and find it from another poem or literature that you know. Have a good day.